Welcome, Blood Brothers and Sanguine Sisters, to Deeply Discussing Dexter. I'm your host, Dale Maxfield. I'm joined by Aaron Caldwell.
Hello.
Brooke Merritt.
Hello.
And Zach Rowland.
Hey.
And today we're discussing Season 6, Episode 9, Get Gellar. On this episode, Get Gellar is the most exciting episode alliteration since Finding Freebo. Professor Atheist is too lot to quit. Deb receives eerily prescient therapy advice over and over. And Dexter finds a Gellar sickle past its sell-by date. What did you guys think of this episode overall?
I mean, this definitely gives us some explanation of why everything has been so disjointed this season. It's not a great episode, but it's better than the last few.
As far as what I thought about this episode, put it this way, I watched it 23 hours ago, and I remember nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm kind of in
Very unmemorable.
Yeah, I'm in the Brooke camp. I'm like, I watched something. Do we have to keep going? So, man, I just wanted to try so hard to believe in friendship, and it's breaking me. It's really breaking me every episode that I watch now.
Are you just going to start watching MASH episodes instead and reviewing those for us?
I might. It sounds more entertaining.
Just randomly. I really liked when Alan Alda did this one thing. And
Anything but this would be fine. Anything but Dexter would be good at this point.
Love conquers Alda. Okay, so it starts with Dexter talking about how Travis is rejecting Gellar, Travis's dark passenger. Dexter asks Travis about the next tableau, victim, or anything, but Travis is no help. The phrase "two lot" is printed on a painting. Travis doesn't recognize it. Gellar finds a card with "two lot" on it. Did I say Gellar? I meant Dexter finds a card with "two lot" on it. He takes Travis somewhere to rest up away from Gellar. Travis tells Harry that helping Travis is what Brother Sam would want.
Did you just do it again?
he did.
You did. I thought you did.
And, we got a Brother Sam mention in there. How fantastic, right?
You gotta make sure.
Yeah, because, we can't get enough of that. It's like this show just can't let go of certain things. And, I mean, there's going to be more that we're going to talk about in this capacity. And I'm over it. I'm just so over it. Let it go, bro. Frozen. Let it go.
It's funny that you say Frozen.
Oh, no!
Oh, man.
Dexter finds that two lot refers to the second law of thermodynamics, because of course it does. It's written on a parking receipt that leads Dexter to an upcoming speaker who is a proponent of atheism. Deb is in another therapy meeting complaining about Dexter. The therapist points out that Dexter is acting like Dexter. Her wanting him to be different is her deal. Deb tells the therapist about Lundy and Brian in short succession, and the therapist suggests that they meet more than once a week. She may have some other issues to talk about.
I think this therapist has got the hots for Deb.
The therapist is just like Scott Buck in drag. She's just telling Deb exactly what she needs to hear, exactly when she needs to hear it.
She's literally holding the script and just yes.
Here's the next thing you need to know.
Yeah.
She might as well be like a psychic or something. I see a frozen man in your future. But what would Brother Sam do? That's what I want to know. Dexter apologizes for not talking to Deb, but she says she gets it. You're a chair. The therapist said, would you expect a chair to be something other than a chair? So she calls Dexter a chair. Quinn isn't at the briefing. Masuka lets Dexter and Angel know about Quinn's drunken hijinks with Green Thong. Miami Metro is trying to track down Travis but can't find him. Lewis shows Deb that Gellar updated his blog. They watch a support video made from a DDK follower. Lewis says he can track down where the blog post was made from its IP address.
Nice to have a guy around who actually is competent, right? Like,
Yeah.
someone who can do things for Miami Metro that are beyond Miami Metro capabilities.
Yes.
Also,
And tracking down an IP address is a real thing.
yeah,
As opposed to some things that happen later in this episode, which are not real things.
Or they just make stuff up.
Yeah.
I mean, Lewis has got to be, since Doak's the most competent person to come through those doors, and it's been a while.
It just depends on the episode.
Yeah.
Like, Deb's a good detective once in a while, Quinn's a good detective once in a while, but then they just kind of revert back to their natural state of being of just, like, being drunk and fighting with each other.
Which is also funny because Lewis has this fascination with Dexter and is like, he's asking him how he figures it all out, but like, really, he's almost just as competent and intelligent as Dexter, but he's like fanboying out all the time. And so then when it comes to Dexter, he's like, oh my gosh, but he's almost just as smart. Like, he's doing things that nobody else can do. So he's almost like equal Dexter.
Yes.
But guys, this is Miami Metro. They're all fucking rock stars. Like,
Define rock star.
I don't know. Masuka said it. It's just
All rock stars.
so good.
Angel wakes up Quinn from a dead sleep on a pillow on his hard floor. Quinn's gun is missing. He left his phone in a stripper's car, and they track down the location. The father of the dead escort whose case LaGuardia pushed Deb to close shows up to tell Deb that he found out someone, not the paramedics, cracked her sternum doing CPR. Deb's non-committal, but she says she'll run it upstairs and see what she can do. Cracked sternum. That's some pretty brutal CPR.
Cracked sternum. Not a rib.
Yeah.
The
Sternum.
whole thing.
In pieces. All of it. Shattered. Just shattered.
It's like he was using a triangle or something to give her CPR and put all the pressure on her sternum.
Just got a sledgehammer and just started hammering away.
Don't you die on me!
It's intense. Intense.
Lewis does some super fake typing and says he's trying to prove he's good enough to date Jamie. Masuka tells Lewis to follow his dick and leave it to Jamie to deal with Angel. Dexter gets the atheism professor's schedule. He visits Travis and shows him the blog post. Travis says it's a message to Travis, a way back in. Dexter shows Travis a book by the two-lot atheism guy. Travis confirms that Gellar hates him. He's an atheist. The natural enemy of Edward James Olmos.
He has a lot of natural enemies, though.
Yeah.
Edward James almost does.
Dexter helps Harrison pass out cookies. That's a scene.
Did not know that happened.
Like, there's a judgmental guy at the daycare that Dexter like one-ups, and Harrison passes out cookies and looks really excited about it.
Sounds like it's really relevant to the
Man,
story.
it was such a great scene.
Yeah, great lead in.
I remember everything we've talked about so far, but not this scene.
Are we sure it actually happened?
I'm sure it happened.
Dale's hallucinating cookie passing out.
I'm not
scenes.
making up scenes in Dexter.
Just to see
I
if
would
any
make
of
up
us
much
noticed.
better ones.
I really wish
if
that you
again.
guys had. I mean, I know this is audio for the listeners, but I wish you had video right now because I ate a cookies and cream ice cream bar before this episode because I am well and truly cookied.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Good throwback.
I did it.
Good throwback.
I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to hold on to it forever.
Back to when the show was not horrible. As terrible as that line was.
It's all terrible. it's all bad. Nothing will ever be good again.
That is true. Ruined.
It's like a silo with a dead guy at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Quinn stops by the stripper's house and mistakes her daughter for the one he hooked up with. Mom is a whole other story. I memorialized a screen capture of Angel meeting the mother for the first time. It turns out Quinn actually picked her up at the Waffle House across the street from the strip club. Quinn finds his gun and phone. Turns out they took pictures of whatever horrible things they did together. And on the way back, Angel, Smokey, and the bandit car breaks down. Quinn picks a fight with Angel and gets his ass kicked. A woman walking a baby in a stroller stops them by threatening to call the police.
You know, I feel like in his time on this show, this is like the third or fourth time that Quinn's got the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah.
Gets better every time.
How are you even here? You're the worst.
The worst.
Just wants to feel something. The over-the-top Professor Atheist has a British accent. Yay. Dexter finds out that the professor has office hours later that night. Dexter will be there in case Gellar shows up to get him. Dexter tries to warn Professor Atheist, but he tells him to leave him alone unless he has proof. Dexter looks at the layout and sees how to use Travis to cover one of the exits. Dexter starts setting up a kill room for Gellar. Travis tells Dexter that Gellar took him under his wing and convinced him that they had been chosen by God to bring about the end of the world. Travis sees Gellar walk into Professor Atheist's office. Dexter sets Travis up to guard the stairs while he takes the elevator. The elevator immediately breaks down. Dexter pries the doors open, but he's completely trapped by the concrete between stops. Travis breaks open an elevator door with an axe and rescues Dexter. By the time they get to Professor Atheist's office, he's gone, but there's signs of a struggle and drops of blood on the floor. Dexter takes Travis back to the hotel. Dexter has Travis reach out to Gellar on the blog again to try to meet up.
I know I'm supposed to care, or I'm supposed to feel something, tension maybe. I mean, you know, good television, these are those moments where you're like, oh, this is tension, this is this dramatic buildup, but like, I just don't care. And I just want it to be over.
Well, going over this again, like all of the air is let out of this, knowing by the fact that the show is just toying with us now by pretending that Gellar is still a threat.
That's the only tension I had. That's the only thing that really kept me. I was like, oh, okay, well, Gellar is like really truly this major threat, and he's leading Travis down this path. But then, yeah, once the air's let out, you're just like, well, fuck you. Put the air back in the bag, okay? I want to get hit in the face again with that airbag.
Yeah. It's like giving people balloons for their birthday. Here's a sack of my breath.
That's DNA.
The next morning, Gellar hasn't replied on the blog, and Deb calls. It's another DDK murder. Professor Atheist is lying on his back on the lecture stage Dexter saw him on the day before. He's shirtless, and he has the Alpha Omega symbol carved into his belly. His right hand has been cut off, and he's been exsanguinated. Masuka peels back the carving. Professor Atheist is empty inside. Dexter looks up into the lights and sees that there are a bunch of bowl/basket type objects suspended out of sight. He tries to warn Masuka, but Masuka bends the remaining right arm and 6 bowls of blood spill, drenching Deb, Dexter, Masuka, and Quinn.
I will say that I did enjoy that, and not because of the technicality, just because I was like, finally, they get some blood on them. They get covered in blood. All right, cool.
Yeah, it was cool, all right. Travis wakes up in his hotel room. Bring the false prophet to the church is written in blood in his bathroom, and the severed hand is in the sink.
Blood that they didn't even try to make look like real blood, by the way.
Yeah.
Just like red paint.
And
yes,
and styled like a paintbrush. Like you could see like paintbrush marks. Like
somebody was very careful with that.
It's almost like they were like they had someone from like a PA do it, and the PA's like, I'm not putting my fingers in this. I'm getting a brush because and they're like, whatever, we don't have time. We're moving on.
Yeah. Deb tells the therapist that she's not sure she believes in God, but after the blood dumped on her head, she's pretty sure that God hates her. The therapist is still trying to unpack all of Deb's trauma. Deb drops another bombshell that Brian and Dexter are brothers. The therapist tries to carefully suggest that Deb is responsible for the partners that she chooses. She says Deb has a history of choosing inappropriate or unavailable men. She encourages Deb to learn to break these patterns and become whole again. And again, like, Deb, like, goes through the motions of resisting or not agreeing with these suggestions, and then just instantly takes them on board and improves her life.
What does she say? Her and Dexter have a small conversation about this, and she's like, "You're a chair, and I need a table." Or was that earlier?
That comes later.
Oh, okay.
Because he brings it up again. He's like, "You called me a chair," and she says, "Yes, you're a chair, but what I need is a table." And then she keeps talking about whatever she was actually talking about.
I was just like, this is the worst analogy.
Yeah, thanks, Scott Buck, for your chair and table bullshit.
Yeah. Wait till you find out where all of this is going.
I don't.
I can't wait for Zach to find out where this is going.
Deb takes an elevator ride with LaGuerta. LaGuerta tells Deb that she can't afford to reopen the dead call girl case. Deb stands up to LaGuerta and says, "If you have a problem with me investigating a homicide, which is my job, then fire me. Otherwise, I'm reopening the case." Later, we see LaGuerta get into a car with Matthews. Turns out he was the mystery CPR man. LaGuerta tells him not to worry, they'll find a way to stop it. Nobody cares. We see Travis.
That should have been a big moment. We just don't care about anything anymore with this show.
Oh my goodness, Matthews, more screen time.
Well,
yeah, way.
He was about the only person it could have been that they would keep it secret from us. Because if it was Angel, the only other person that LaGuerta would try to protect, like, they would just show us Angel.
And we know Masuka's not capable of that, and she wouldn't cover for him. So he's out of the picture.
Masuka does not have the upper body strength to crack a sternum. Clearly, Captain Matthews does.
Yeah, but Masuka's got that monster truck. He might have tried to use that to do CPR, so...
Yep, I'll crack a sternum.
We see Travis cleaning up the blood that was painted on. He lies to Dexter about Gellar leaving the hand and writing the message. He appears to have switched allegiances back to Gellar.
So, something that happens in the show quite a bit is they clean off a wall and it doesn't change the paint texture at all. Right. It never takes anything off. If he was really cleaning that, you would see exactly the letters that he just cleaned off.
We don't have time for this, Aaron. Okay, we've got.
I'm sorry.
We've got so much to film today. All right, if it doesn't look right, we'll just hope that nobody sees it and calls it out on a podcast in the future. Okay, we've got to move on.
Yeah, Colin Hanks is just wiping a wall, and those letters are all there in After Effects. Those letters were never on that wall. Asuka shows Deb a report. Lewis tracked the IP address to a physical address, and I noted here that Masuka calls it an IPA instead of an IP address, which is not an acronym. It's not used that way. IPA is India Pale Ale. They are doofuses. They interview a guy at a park/rest stop who provides unsecured Wi-Fi. Lewis says the guy could drive up and post without leaving his car. He also says that if there's an antenna nearby, it could boost the signal by a couple of miles. Nope. Even if that were technically accurate, the FCC would shut that shit right down.
And also,
to blast Wi-Fi 2 miles.
I wouldn't have known that. That I maybe did know. I maybe did know that. Okay. I was going to say, to be fair, I would not have known, but that I probably would know.
So as they walk away from the guy telling them about, or from Lewis telling them about the miracle of mile radius Wi-Fi, The camera stops and shows us the abandoned church at the other end of the field. So
again,
it's not a mile away. It's like line of sight.
Yeah, it's right there. And so now we're slowly deflating that balloon, like one image after another. This whole episode to me is just, it's really a whoopee cushion, but it's not funny. It's just like...
It's just the air without any laughs at all.
Exactly.
It's like you asked for a whoopee cushion and they put Whoopi Goldberg there instead. And so now you're just sitting on an elderly black woman.
Get off me!
Oh, that seems like a little bit of an upgrade, though. I kind of went the wrong direction there.
It'd be
that would be way cooler.
It'd be really sad.
Very sad.
Lewis takes Jamie to his apartment. He has something of a toy and comic museum set up around the Jetsons' furniture. Jamie says she understands weird. She collected black rubber bracelets from the 80s. I don't think there's any sort of a apples to apples comparison there with what he's got going on in his apartment, but he's got like the 40-year-old virgin apartment, in my opinion, but okay. Lewis says he was trying to respect Angel's wishes. Jamie appreciates his honesty with her vagina. In a cutaway from their sexual encounter, it turns out that one of the pieces in Lewis's collection is the ice truck killer painted mannequin hand.
Because, of course.
You can't let anything go.
So what do we is Lewis a bad guy now? Is Lewis trying to become the next Bay Harbor Butcher?
Man,
Is he just trying to get in Jamie's pants?
Who knows?
I hope he's more than just a video game developer, because that would be a really flat story.
I feel like they're alluding to something, and not that I'm upset about it, but...
Why is Aaron laughing?
I don't know.
He went to his happy place thinking about Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie is amazing.
I really don't remember what happened.
They bone, and they bone good.
Well, I knew that. I meant like where the story goes. I remember that part.
There's some like softcore boning, and then all of a sudden you see the fucking hand, and you're like, god damn it! You just reminded me of what that was all about.
Yeah, you go straight from side boob to severed hand. Travis shows Dexter all the exits to the abandoned church. He gives Travis a plan for getting Gellar's attention. Dexter will flank him and take him out. Gellar is inside reading the Bible. Gellar says Travis needs to repent or he will burn for all eternity. Gellar offers Travis one more chance and opens his arms. And with tears in his eyes, Travis walks towards Gellar's embrace. Dexter tells Harry that after this, it's up to Travis what he does with the rest of his life. Dexter thinks that by killing Travis's dark passenger, he can gain more control over his own. Dexter wants to be a better father. And then Dexter enters the main chapel with the M99, but Travis is knocked out on the floor. Dexter finds a hidden panel under a heavy altar that reveals a descending staircase under the chapel. In the basement room, there is a heavy-duty freezer. Gellar's body is inside, frozen solid. Dexter's thoughts reveal he's been dead all along. We cut to Travis, who opens his eyes and gets up and picks up the ancient sword. Dexter thinks, did Travis work alone? Did Travis kill all those people? And the episode ends.
Okay. So I'm going to go
part of the episode. It ended.
All right. So, who knocked out Travis? Are we to insinuate that his acceptance of him being Gellar left him unconscious on the floor? Because he very clearly comes to and grabs his head.
I feel like he faked it until he was going to fake it until Dexter said something to him or came to him, but then Dexter found the trap door.
Yeah, but
there is no right answer. Like, who the fuck knows what?
But Colin Hanks' acting didn't suggest that.
Right.
Which brings me to my next point.
Is that Colin Hanks is terrible.
I read an interview with Scott Buck.
Oh, hang on. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Before you get to that, I want to talk about the state of Gellar's body. So, Gellar has been dead for 3 years. And he's in this like frozen whatever, this freezer. He should be covered in like a sheet of ice at this point. Like, you shouldn't be able to recognize who the body is in there just from like moisture and like evaporation and refreezing and condensation. But it looks like he just got in there yesterday.
Yeah.
And stayed there until he was dead.
Yeah, again, same production assistant was like, I'm not painting this guy up with ice. I just don't have time for this today.
We have Edward James Olmos for another 25 minutes. How frozen can we make him look?
Yeah, they just went like a little glaze. Like, you know, when you've got the popsicle and you let it sit for like 5 minutes outside of the freezer and start to thaw, he's like that level of frozen. Yeah. Just the little ice crystals here and there.
Like, unless Travis had like a bunch of frozen peas on top of him that he ate last night and took off, there's no way he would be that uncovered and easy to access.
And we all know Travis is a big pea fan.
Yes.
Here's another thing. I'm like, why did he show Dexter all of the exits and like he's like playing along? Like, like if it's a good twist and a good reveal, then you're like, oh shit, and then it makes you go back and really question a lot of things. This was one of those things where I was like, again with Aaron, like, who knocked him out with the shovel, right? Or like, who makes him do these things? Like he does.
Right.
So you know, the camera plays tricks on us or whatever, but then. It's like, why is he playing along with Dexter in the first place when he knows what he knows? Like, was Dexter supposed to find the trapdoor? Probably not. And then he has to improvise, which we all know he's terrible at. So what are we doing here, guys?
So that leads us into what Aaron was about to talk about, which to bring you up to speed, Zach. Last week when we were recording, and you had some internet difficulties. The three of us had this conversation about how Colin Hanks' acting doesn't make any sense from here on out, because he's supposed to be both Travis and Gellar, but they don't convey that very well. And one of the theories that was thrown out there was that they just didn't tell anyone, like they kept it a secret from everyone until this reveal happens in the show, and I'll let Aaron tell you what he found out about that.
According to Scott Buck, only Dexter,
Michael C.
Hall, Edward James Olmos, and Scott Buck knew that Gellar was dead.
Really?
Why the hell
Yes.
wouldn't you tell the actor that's it's
No, Zach, they didn't tell the writers
or the directors.
What? Scott Buck had talked to Edward James Olmos and told him that when nobody was paying attention, like the scene where they go to the restaurant and the waitress doesn't pay attention to him, he was the one that told that extra not to look at him or acknowledge him in any way. He did, not the director. Nobody knew but those three people.
So Edward James Olmos was like ghost directing every scene that he was in.
Oh my god.
Which explains why the directors had Colin Hanks do some of the things that makes the fact that him and Gellar are the same person just make no sense whatsoever.
Not to mention the writers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I wonder if he even told the writer of this episode, because he doesn't mention that in the interview, but did she know writing this episode, or did he write the ending?
I would imagine that she knew. I mean, but then again, I would have imagined that they had told Colin Hanks from the beginning what was going to happen, because he had to prepare for the performance. But then that goes to show, like, that what I assumed was just an absolutely, like, terrible choices by Colin Hanks are him just being completely bombarded with information and not knowing what the hell to do with his character at this point.
Yeah, which kind of is where my point
Stupid
where
idea.
it was like intentional but not really unintentional. Like he's intentionally playing it bad, but that's just because he doesn't know what the hell to play. So it's like,
Right.
I'll just do this and hopefully it goes well, and it doesn't.
Well, and I think he's playing it as like he's playing his character as the foil of the team. Like there's Edward James Olmos, who's supposed to be like the all-knowing, all-powerful part of the duo, and then Travis is supposed to be kind of weaker, but you know he's also a younger man and has some strength and stuff like that, and is kind of fighting against it. So I think he just made it so that Travis seemed
like a beta.
mentally, beta, exactly, like mentally weak enough that Edward James almost could easily tell him what to do, like have power over him.
Yeah.
Instead of, you're both of these characters, so you should vacillate between them, or...
The best part of all this is when we discussed that last week, we came to the conclusion that would be stupid.
Yes, we did.
And here
And we were
are.
right.
We said there was no way they would do something that dumb.
And they did.
Yeah. What
Little did we know.
What year was this released? Do you know? This season?
14?
14? Okay.
I want to say.
2014? No, this show was over before I moved up here, and I moved up here in 2013. So this would have been 2000.
I mean, 11 is what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I met Colin Hanks, it was probably 2013. And I wish I had watched this and had these discussions so that when he gave me a hug when he left, I could have been like, hey man, it's going to be okay. You'll get past Dexter. You'll have a great career, and we all believe in you. You know? Because if I'd have known what I know now, then when I met him, it would have been a totally different thing. I wish I would have known, because I would have been
Did he work on a project you were on, or did you just run into him?
No, he was at the Kansas City Improv Festival. We brought him in for Super Ego, and I was his chauffeur. So I was with him all weekend, but I had not
That's
seen
hilarious.
Dexter, and we hung out a lot of the weekend. And then when he left, he gave me a hug and said thanks for taking care of me and everything. And I was like, man, if I'd have known, we could have had some great conversations. You know what we did talk about? How much he hated the Dark Knight Rises.
That's awesome.
He was ripping it up because that's when it came out. Was when I saw him, when I met him.
We may need to talk offline and figure out like who at KCIC has the Colin Hanks hookup, because we might need to have him guest appear on a Deeply Discussing Dexter so we can post-mortem this season with him.
That would be so awesome.
The funny part of all this is in that story, Zach wasn't real. Colin Hanks was just driving himself the entire time.
I made it up. I made the whole thing up.
Zach's been Colin Hanks all this time.
Oh my god!
How many movie reviews did I do in my car with Colin Hanks?
Oh man, my acting got so much better.
Well, this episode was directed by Seth Mann.
Was it though?
Seth Mann. He previously
He was
directed
there.
5 Deep Breaths, and on Dexter, he directed just this one single episode. He went on to work with directing on The Wire, Grey's Anatomy, and Fringe. This episode was written by Karen Campbell, who was previously a producer and writer on Injustice, which I have never heard of before. And then on Dexter, this is her first written episode. She wrote or co-wrote one episode for each of seasons 7 and 8, as well as writing the story for one season 5 episode and serving as a staff writer for season 6, a story editor for season 7, and executive story editor for season 8, as more and more rats abandon the ship. After Dexter, she worked as a producer and writer on Outlander, Unforgettable, and Covert Affairs, which Covert Affairs I think I watched for a season and a half before that became forgettable. What was the best line of the episode?
I actually gave this one to Masuka. When it comes to matters of the heart, always follow your dick.
Aw.
I know, right?
Nice one.
That's the sweet Masuka line.
Wow.
I'm going with Deb's tour de force against La Guerta with if you have a problem with me investigating a homicide, which is my job, then fire me. Otherwise, I'm reopening the case.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Since I barely even remembered what I watched, I went with when Dex goes to, I don't remember who he's talking to, Batista, and says, "Did your sister ever call you a chair?"
That is awesome.
Yeah. I didn't care about the whole chair thing, but I like that he said, "Did your sister ever call you a chair?"
Angel's like, no.
He got really serious
She
about
does
it, too.
some
It was
weird
pretty
things
intense.
sometimes, but she never called me a chair, man. How about the worst line of the episode?
At the end, when Dexter says, or thinks to himself, did Travis kill all those people? Who else was it going to be? Like, at this point, he's literally all that is left.
Was it Brother Sam all this time?
Could it have been the dog?
It kills me so much about this season. It's just like, why is Dexter all of a sudden stupid?
Because the writers.
And no one told the writers what the characters of the show were.
Yeah. So I know who we blame, Scott Buck. I went with the entire final exchange with Gellar and Travis. I don't even remember what they were saying, but it was all the Jesus-y stuff, and they're just talking over each other, and it's so slow, and it's just so bad.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
They just say Jesus to one another and hug.
Yeah.
Hey, Travis. Jesus, bro.
Jesus?
Like the buddy Christ.
I'm going to go with the opposite of Brooke with the worst line and say that Dex's "I'm here if you need a chair" line. It's just like, shut up.
Man, he's just trying to be a good friend and brother.
We have broken Zach. He's over it. Zach was so optimistic. He was so optimistic.
Until we went to Nebraska.
It all fell apart. And it's
love
going to get
Nebraska,
so much
though.
worse.
I do love Nebraska. Nebraska is right up there with the best of, like, the show just going completely off the rails.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like it would have been a great episode had it not gone in the middle of this season. Like, they purposely put it there to break people.
We were already broken.
Like Aaron said, at the time, people loved it.
They did. I loved it. I remember watching it and being like, wow, that was actually a pretty good episode.
Like, after season 5 and half of season 6, it was, like, great to see Dexter out, like, kicking ass again.
Randomly shooting off the
Shooting
road.
road signs.
Oh, it was still terrible.
Banging the cashier girl because he misunderstood himself. When he said, let's do her.
That's when he should go, did I bang that cashier girl?
that would have fit the scene perfectly.
Did I kill that pot farmer? Or was it Travis?
Zipping Travis the whole time. This whole show is going on in Travis's mind. How about the performance of the episode?
God, I didn't even pick one because I forgot that part. I was so glad it was over.
Edward James Olmos?
Yeah, I'm going with almost. Yeah, whatever.
Almost in the freezer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we'll go with
Yeah,
that.
he looks cold.
This is pretty much all we had this episode.
Yep. We'll just leave it there. Thanks, guys, for enduring this with me, and thanks to everyone who's listened this far. We'll see you on the next Deeply Discussing Dexter.